We're in Boogie Wonderland.
Yeah. Well, you can't play it. You're gonna turn it off.
Apparently, because it's gonna put a copyright infringement on my video, like it did the other day with the Beatles.
What if we sing "My Ding-a-Ling"?
Go ahead, you sing it.
By Chuck Berry.
Go ahead, you sing it.
Oh,
you start. I'll join in.
Infringement. Oh, and
no.
The Queen banned it.
No swearing.
And the Queen banned that song.
Did she?
I want you to play with. Ask your fans if they know the song.
So it's day 12 today. Les is having his moment, his union break. Got his Timmy's. Got his lunch. Timbits today, I think. No? What, I'm not allowed to say that?
No.
Union break or Timmy's? Oh, union break.
Buddy, come on.
So we don't talk about union breaks?
No, we don't.
Okay, how about safety meeting? We're having a safety meeting.
Yeah.
Make sure we're wearing our steel toes.
Yeah.
Our steel toes on. Always a good idea to wear steel toes around Les. You never know what he's going to drop on you. What else, Les? So day 12 today. What are we going to do today?
We're going to attempt to take
the engine out?
the stuff off the drive, off the frame, and maybe even get the engine lifted.
I would hope so. So we're pretty close to getting it stripped down. I would think it's only going to take us a few hours today. So should we get to it, or you want to finish your coffee first?
Finish my coffee, David.
All right. See you in a bit. All right, guys, back on the project after a couple of days off, and Les is just working on labeling up some parts that we took off during the last session. We don't want to mix things up like front springs versus rear springs, etc. So we're just doing quick labels for those. In the meantime, I've just given the garage or the shop a quick sweep up, and things are looking good here, so we're ready to move forward. I think what I'll start doing is, while Les is working on the labeling, I'll start working on taking small things off the car like this clutch slave cylinder and the clutch slave rod. So we'll do that, and then we'll come back when we start taking bigger stuff off the car. So just to show you this really quickly, this is one of the things that people get wrong when they reassemble these cars, and that's the clutch slave cylinder they put on the wrong side of the mount, which doesn't give them enough throw to activate the cross shaft and the release bearing. So that's how it should look. So on this side, towards the rear of the bracket, is the way it should look. So I just want to give you a quick look at that before we disassemble it. Now that we've got the clutch slave off, and I just removed that small fuel line with the fuel filter while I was here in this area, we're going to start loosening off the bell housing bolts. We'll leave the top studs attached, but we'll remove all the bolts, and we'll bring it back when we're ready to take the trans off. Okay, while I'm working on the trans bell housing bolts, Les is going to start working on the 4 fasteners, 2 per side, where the rear of the trans mounts to the frame. So he's just going to get on that while I continue on this. Okay, Les has got the trans mount bolts undone. I've got most of the bell housing bolts done. I've got, I think, 3 left to undo. Les is taking off the front chassis cross tube, and there's 3 bolts to do that. So we'll get the cross tube off, and that'll get us one step closer to getting the engine and trans out. Starter is off, obviously, so it's here. Here's all the trans mounting bolts, including the rear trans mount bolts, and I've already showed you the clutch slave cylinder and the fuel line over there. So we'll continue on. Okay, just a note on the rear trans mount. You can do this a number of ways. If you're taking the engine out with the trans completely, you can undo the 4 bolts that are attaching this brace to the chassis. If you're wanting to take the just the trans out, which we haven't decided whether we're doing or not yet, I think we might just take the trans out and leave the engine in. We'll just block the back of the engine under the oil pan with a block of wood. There's a couple of bolts in here that you can remove that releases the rear of the trans from the rubber mount. So I've taken those off as well. So I just wanted to point that out. The reason why it's easier to do it with those 2 bolts removed under the rubber mounts, or on top of the rubber mounts, is because with the brace on the chassis, you're not able to pull the trans back because you've got no space to be able to move that bracket back. So obviously, if we wanted to move just the trans, we can lift it off these rubber mounts and pull it back off the input shaft. So just wanted to point that out. Just saying to Les that it can be difficult to get the chassis cross tube out sometimes because there's quite a bit of friction in there. And you can either get a rubber mount and pound that out, or you can jack up the frame from the very center of the car, and that'll actually spread that out a little bit and you can remove it. But Les likes hammers, so he's got his rubber mallet here. He's just going to go ahead and remove that out of here. Carefully. You have to bang up on both sides equally, Les? Yeah. Not run it into the front of the water pump. See, you're hitting the pulley under the water pump here, so you have to sort of bang it forward. Didn't even get yourself. So Les is just taking the one soft line off the front. We've got the other side off. That's the brake line that's just sort of hanging off there, so we thought we'd get rid of that. So just a quick note here before we go much further. You see I've got an extra stand there on each side beside Les's foot. What we're going to do is we're going to jack the rear of the engine up and put a block under there, a block under the oil pan. But as we jack up the rear of the engine, we're going to sort of, and removing the transmission, because we're going to remove the transmission separately from the engine, we're going to be upsetting the balance a little bit of the engine, so I just don't want it to tip forward. So we're going to put a couple extra stands in just in case that's, might happen. I've never had it happen to me, but I guess it depends on where you've got your initial set of stands. But we're obviously worried about a little bit of weight transfer forward. We still have the diff in the rear, so there is still some weight on the rear of the frame, but since we're moving this trans out, it's probably not a bad idea just to put a couple more stands in the front to keep it from flipping forward. All right, Les is pointing at the spin-on oil filter if that's going to be an issue. What we could probably do is we could probably just loosen that bolt off and cock it a little bit towards the front of the engine, just so it's not going to foul on our. We've got this moving dolly, which tends to work pretty well, I think, for the engine. It just sort of sits nicely in that little opening. You have to unbolt that less to be able to do that. So yeah, one center bolt there, and we'll clock it forward a little bit. So anyway, we're getting close. We'll bring you back in a minute.
Nothing, just when I needed you most.
Keep singing, Les.
We're not loud.
Yeah, you got to sing because we don't want YouTube to come after us.
Who sang it? Grab these and these. Don't lose them.
Okay, so all the bolts are out of the trans now, bell housing. Les forgot to do 2 of them. So we're gonna pick it up, move it back. Ready?
Hold on.
Up and back. Back right to the frame.
Whoa, easy peasy.
All right, trans is out.
Bloody big flywheel, eh?
All right, we'll have a bit better inspection afterwards. We'll get the engine off first, and then we'll come back and have a look at it in a few minutes, hopefully. Right, Les?
Betcha.
Okay, so Les is now going to remove the fasteners from the downpipe so we can get the engine out. So we might have to heat these up, we'll see. Those are famous, those studs for seizing or breaking off, so we'll see how we do. Well, we'll see how Les does. We'll be back. Okay, so as I mentioned, those bolts don't necessarily want to come off very easy.
Now the doctor broke them off.
The very first one that Les tried to get off with his breaker bar, it broke the stud off. So now we're going to take the manifold off the block completely, and then we'll detach that downpipe, hopefully, from the midsection of the exhaust at some point later on. But let's
Not like them fellas on TV, Tush. You know, make it look easy.
You like to make it look difficult?
Everything I do is to struggle on rusty old parts.
So you want to be like this. You want this to be the reality of reality
the
TV.
reality show, not the
breaking
fake.
stuff off and it
Yeah.
taking a week for
Not
it to get the
fake
stud
news
drilled
with-
out.
Not the fake news one with the pretty women and everything.
Okay.
We're the real thing.
Real thing. The real ugly men instead of pretty women.
Nasty, angry, dirty, scruffy looking.
Okay, so we'll bring it back when we get this manifold off, and we're going to try to get these
it okay to
clamps
undo them
off
all?
here. Yeah, we can undo them all. Try to get the clamps off at that mid pipe and see how we make out there. So it's always funny the things you find when you're working on these cars. So I'm looking at this steel strap here, and I'm wondering why this strap is on here. So it tells me, I think, that this guy had a vibration in his pipes. And his solution to the problem was to put this strap on and to jam a rock in here. So that's the solution to rattling pipes, I guess, is just jam a stone in there and clamp it off. That looks like something Les would do. Hey? No comment? No comment?
No rocks.
No.
Go
So
ahead.
no. So Les is just going to pull the manifold free and just sort of set it over here. So obviously it's still attached to the pipes down below, but you should be able to detach it from the cylinder head. So just take a hold of that and just sort of move it off the head.
This is not easy. Shall I use my little bar?
Yeah, carefully.
Stay away.
Okay, there's a couple different ways you can do this. I've brought two different methods. I've got engine lifting straps. I also brought an Oberg tilt lift with me, which is cable load leveler. We don't necessarily need it for this. It's kind of an essential thing to have if you're trying to take the engine out of a TR6, that you have some sort of leveler so you can actually tilt the engine at quite a steep angle to get it out if you're doing this with the body on. So anyway, stay tuned. We'll hook the straps up and then we'll bring you back. Okay, we've got the engine straps on and hooked up. So we're just about to undo the motor mounts. Les will give me a wrench here. I thought we were going to use the impact. You're going to hold the one and I'm going to use the impact. Okay.
Checking the size. 9/16. Perfect. Good. It's got a 9/16 in it.
You want to use D plus? This may not work anyway. You might have to turn it. So.
Top or
I
bottom?
gotta get an extension.
Turn it.
Said he would not write a memoir, but he has announced that he has written a memoir, and the answer is...
Okay, you ready?
I'm going to do the bottom one. They're loose, eh? Just so you know, brother.
Ready?
Existing request
Ouch.
that he write a memoir for decades, but after he announced his diagnosis in March 2019, Trebek was so moved by the letters and messages he received.
Is he still alive?
Share his
Yes.
story. He said, I want people to know a little more about the person they've been cheering on for the past year.
Raise your hand.
And you can pick
Wow.
up Alice Trebek's memoirs on July 21st. We have a look at your Jewel up to the minute traffic now.
Well, you can't enjoy trouble-free drive, but you have a lot of lane restrictions because of construction. The only good news I can give you, there's no delays as a result. Just be aware though.
We get them? I'll hold this. Top one first. We want to do the bottom.
Highway 93 in Guaramadonte, we do have pre-
Dave, just curious, does this look like it's being damaged?
That's closed today for maintenance, and both east and west 407 ramp to the northbound 404, we do have treatment in the left lane. If paid for by CIBC Smart Account and $300 in payment monthly fee for up to 12 months when you open a new account, conditions apply. Endorse your contact with less than 15 minutes on your radio.
Whatever you do, watch my hands, it doesn't
I think I'm
slide.
gonna get a little tension on this.
Go ahead.
Okay, so why don't you keep a hand on this, Les? Keep a hand on the straw.
Pardon me?
Keep a hand on the block.
Yeah,
You got it?
yeah. Take the road for
No.
me? Yep.
So pull that bolt out.
For Being Frank on Jewel Radio. Sunday evenings from 6 until 7, featuring great music, recipes, weekly
All right.
interviews, and fun facts.
Okay, so you get on the hoist. Just leave it there.
6 until 7 p.m. on Jewel Radio.
Welcome, buddy. You're so fun.
Watch the camera.
Hey, ready, champ?
Yeah.
Talk to me. Now the exhaust. Watch that frame doesn't fall on you, Dave.
Let's go.
Fatty liver is just what it sounds like. A buildup of fat in the liver created
Hang on.
by obesity. Estimates say it affects 20% of people.
Just a manifold keeps getting in the way. Keep going.
Possible fibrosis, cirrhosis, and cancer. While further testing is necessary, there are alternatives to
Are you clear enough over there to bring it your way yet?
This is in the way of this one.
Can you put the handle down or take that bolt out, take the handle off? Don't
I'll
or
take
take the jack out.
almost good.
You can move the jack now, Les.
Okay.
Or put the handle down. Just get it out of the way.
Okay, will you just relax for a second? Like that.
Or you could take the bolt out of the handle if you wanted to.
It won't come out. I need the tools, so I'll just push. I gotta take the car engine up a bit higher, right?
Okay.
Because it's gonna hit the top of the frame in the corner, maybe.
Take it up as high as you want.
So you know.
Don't take it up any higher than you have to, though.
There.
Okay, pull it towards you.
Nice and slow.
That's slow. Hang on.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay? Talk to me.
Keep going. Keep going. Watch the camera. Don't pull the frame up. You need to go more straight out, Les.
Okay, I'm gonna kick this so don't let the engine bounce. Okay?
Just don't pull the jacks in, because you're almost pulling them out as it is.
Like good?
Now you can start to spin it towards the back there, towards the door. Okay, let's slowly put it down. Slowly.
See where the jack is?
So you want to go back more then, clear the jack?
Well, I'll just lower it down. a
Slowly.
bit. Yeah, okay. Calm control.
2 hands. Good more. Yeah, that's good. Now move it. Move it a bit. Go. Okay. Good there, Les. So
Yeah.
let's get your little
Dolly.
dolly. Okay, just hold the engine so it doesn't spin there for now.
How about the wood if you want to put?
We're going to need a block, probably for underneath the
With the pan.
underneath the crank.
Okay, so what about the one there?
Just give me a second.
On top of the jack.
Okay. I'm going to put it down slowly, okay?
Okay, so you got a piece of wood over there.
It's going to be probably something like.
No, the 2x6 against
Yeah,
the
we'll-
wall.
No, let's see when we get there how much we need. But it might be this. or it might be a 4x4 or something in between. All right, so just take this. I'm just going to go down slowly, okay? So just guide it down into the... So you want to keep the engine on the back part of this, Les. See where the... Yeah.
Hold on.
A little bit more.
Hold on.
Okay, good. Now let's see what you kind of block me at the front there now.
How's that?
Cooling. So just on the front of the oil pan here, Les. Just right here at the front here.
There.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's safe.
Yeah. Just straighten the engine out though.
Right there.
Yeah. Got it?
Yeah. You don't think that's gonna fall over, Dave?
You don't want it on the crank.
Let's see.
Should be like a flat edge right here, just right there in front of the pan. So, okay, hold it there.
Yeah.
Got it?
Yeah.
Is that straight under the pan now or not?
Sure looks it. Let's see finish.
Okay.
I think so. The back's crooked.
That doesn't really matter. It's on the engine plate at the back. Okay. Just make sure it's stable. Okay. Okay, Les. 1 TR6 engine. You can see that okay. So we've just got it blocked under the block just in front of the oil pan, and we've got it on the rear engine plate here at the back, so it's not sitting on the pan at the back. It's hard to see, but there you go.
Oh, look at that. Dave, one of them on each side.
Okay, whatever you want to do, Les.
Insurance.
Whatever you want. Okay, let's just cutting the clamps off the center pipes. I've got the front brake lines removed, and I've started removing the nylon emissions tube from the chassis rail. So making progress. We're getting pretty close to getting this stripped down entirely. We're trying to get that manifold off there and see if we can actually break that join there in the middle and pull the manifold forward. So we'll give it a shot. Mr. Safety put a nylon strap on the engine so it wouldn't roll over on its side. So everything's strapped down securely there. So we'll put that in the corner and we'll get back to it at some later date. So we ended up using the reciprocating saw to get that pipe off. There's no way that center joint was coming off. It was crimped pretty good, rusted pretty solid. And actually these pipes are welded back in here anyway, so we figured we'd get some new pipe on this. Les has got one of the Monza exhaust tips off, just working on the other one, so should be off in just a second. And then we can move on to removing the differential and the emissions lines, fuel lines that and brake lines that run to the back of the car that run along the chassis rail that I mentioned before. And then this frame is officially stripped. Again, I still haven't done that radiator protection shield, but I think I'm going to leave it on now. Been so long, I may just leave it there. All right, we've got the frame flipped upside down, and a little bit of damage here. Maybe went over a curb or something. Other than that, I don't see too much damage on the bottom. The plate's been changed on the bottom. We knew that when we bought the car. So we're just getting to the diff and just undoing those 4 bolts so we can lift the diff out. And then we'll be stripped with the exception of getting these lines off. Breaker bar. Here you go. Here you go. All right, we'll come back. Okay, so differential is now out. We flipped it back up on its right side so the gear oil doesn't leak out of the little cotter pin on the top. So the only thing left is to remove those lines from the inside of the frame. And I think Les is going to do that himself. He's got some paying work coming, so probably going to be kicking me out of here shortly. So we're probably just going to sit this up on its side over here somewhere, and then Les can probably pull those lines out when he gets a chance to. But you can pretty much see the condition of the bottom of the frame. It actually looks to be in pretty good shape from the bottom, but we'll have a better inspection when we get to deciding on what frame we want to use. These were never boxed in up here, and I'm pretty sure they're probably cracked, but again, that's something we can look at a later date. So there you go. 95% stripped down, let's say. A little bit more work and Les will have her done. Then the gray car comes home and we do it all over again. Right, Les?
Shouldn't be as bad though.
No, there's not much to take off the other car. So
Your hair's bad.
we'll call this a day. Like I said, maybe I'll come back with one quick update. We're just going to stand this frame up over there and out of the way for Les. And then we'll come up with one quick update and we'll be out of here. Last update of the day. So there it is, just sitting up on its side. So Les will continue on with the project without me and just take those lines out, no big deal. Should be able to do that, no issue. Or maybe he'll invite me back later on, who knows. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. So thanks for watching, thanks for commenting, and we will see you later. Happy?
See you guys.
Happy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just worried about the gas.
Sweep this place up.